Chesterfield Marketplace, unbelievably, was proposed in the local plan. Demolish half the marketplace and replace it with a modern shopping centre by a company called Hammerson's. And there was the Civic Society in Chesterfield were obviously fighting really hard against this. But remember, this was in a period in 1974 when progress was thought to be knocking things down and rebuilding them. And there was a building facing into the east side of the marketplace that projected into the marketplace with arches, and it was a three-storey early Georgian building and was in a bad way. And what precipitated action was that the town surveyor, the borough surveyor, decided that the building was in such a bad way it needed shoring up, because otherwise it was dangerous and fall into the street. So he put big heavy oak shores against the front of this building, against one of each of the columns, and then was able to say shortly afterwards, we've just saved people from real danger because you can see the building has moved. And this was being used as an excuse to say all these buildings can't remain, they've got to go because we want this new shopping centre built. And at that time, the county team advised all the districts in Derbyshire, they didn't have their own conservation officers. And so I or my colleagues would attend all the meetings. And I was obviously supporting the Civic Society in Chesterfield, saying, well, these buildings shouldn't be pulled down. But what I felt I needed was somebody of great repute to come and support our case. And the city council at that time, the borough council at that time, were so confident that nobody could show that these buildings could be kept. They agreed to a very small payment to be made to an expert called Bernard Fielden, of Fielden and Mawson Architects, who had done some amazing work in Norwich, rescuing buildings in Norwich, to come up and do a report. And I contacted Bernard Fielden to put him up for this. And he understood the situation amazingly. He was another one of those great characters, larger than life. And the day came when he turned up and he asked for ladders and asked for the engineers department to provide him with all sorts of equipment. And so people were around rather interested to see what this great man would say and do. And the minute he arrived, he looked at these enormous raking shores that had been put against the building and said, "Who did this?" To which somebody from the engineers department said, "Oh, well, we did it to save the building." And he said, "Do you realise you've nearly let that building fall down? It stood on these foundations since the 17th century. And you've now just put this weight on the building which has made it move forward. You have put it in more danger. So I want to know who is completely responsible." Everybody's looking a bit sheepish by this time. Anyway, he then goes up a ladder with this enormous ear trumpet. And he gets somebody to go up another ladder and start knocking on the building. And he goes up and down the ladder, and then he goes on the other side, does it the other way. There's complete silence from everybody watching this particular thing, listening to the sound of the hammer on it. And then he came down with this enormous earphone thing and said, "This building is sound. We can rescue it. There is no problem. We can let it live for hundreds of years yet." And marched off. "I'll send you my report," he said. So I took him back to the station and off he went. It was an amazing piece of theatre. It was, of course, absolute rubbish. You can't test a building that way. But he had convinced everybody that that was the magic. What he did do, very interestingly, was his prescription was that the mortar should be taken out, the front face of the building, all the way around, every third course, and put in crimped stainless steel. And that this, without having any visible effect on the outside once it was repointed, held it all together. So it was like putting it within a stainless steel wire basket. And that was actually his solution. And once he'd done that, the raking shores were moved, and the building is still there and not moved again.